Okay, guys, so you've ordered your gecko or you've picked up your gecko from a vendor at Expo or from a big breeder or a small breeder online. And you're having some issues or what you think may be issues, and you just have some very simple questions you want to ask, but you don't want to be judged. You're kind of curious and you're not that well versed in the community. So this is going to be the video for you. Disclaimer, any of those questions, go ahead and shoot us an inbox over on Instagram. We will happily answer your question to the best of our ability. If we don't have the answer, we may, about 99% sure that we have the resources out there to find out the answer to your question. So go ahead and inbox us and feel free and comfortable and safe. Don't feel like we're going to put you on blast, because we're not. And this is actually a video kind of pertaining to that. So let's dig in. Okay, guys, what's going on? Will here, Flawless Crested Geckos, coming to you guys with another video, and it's kind of a Q&A. We actually received a question on Instagram. We had some pictures associated with it, and we were very happy to help them out. They were curious if they had a new gene. And come to find out, we're not going to show the pictures. We're not going to kind of throw the person's name out there. We want this channel to be extremely helpful for all new breeders, new keepers, beginners, experienced breeders. Whoever finds this channel, it's kind of a safe zone to be able to hopefully find help for anything that you may be troubled with when it comes to breeding crested geckos or keeping crested geckos. That being said, we were sent pictures of a new pickup of a crested gecko, and they were asking, was it potentially a new gene? We're always as polite as we can possibly be. And we're not perfect, so we tell them we don't believe so. Basically, to give you a synopsis of the situation, it was a gecko, it was a picture. There was some blushing on the crown of the head of the gecko. It was a breeder gecko, a female, and they were curious if it would pass on in the offspring. And all we could do is tell you, hey, the gecko looks great. She looked healthy. But the blushing on the head was actually scarring, from breeding, which is very normal. When you breed these crested geckos, that's one of the things about being a breeder. It happens in the wild. These geckos can be extremely rough with one another. Males with females and females with males, believe it or not. There's quite a few female crested geckos out there that will rough their mates up during the breeding process. So you want to keep a close eye with certain standards in place. And hopefully this can be a short, concise video and I don't jump all over the place. But the blushing on the head of this particular gecko was basically the healing of breeding scars from the mating season, probably previously. Typically, when you see blushing like that on the head, it's going to take a few sheds for that to completely clear up. Sometimes it doesn't clear up completely. Sometimes there will always be a faint kind of blushing there from previous scarring. It does not, harm or affect your crested gecko. Obviously, if you have any open wounds on your crested geckos, you're going to want to take them and provide medical assistance to them immediately. Medical assistance may not necessarily mean rush straight to the vet. If you need to go to the vet, go to the vet. But sometimes the vet is going to give you, some ointment or some antibiotics, which you would have to get from the vet. But if it's something very superficial, you can put some ointment on it and quarantine her and her or him in a very limited husbandry enclosure, something with paper towel substrate so you can keep it sanitary, something like plastic branches and things so you can kind of help it shed if it's going into shed, fresh drinking water, and just watching it on watching it closely on a day-to-day basis until you can kind of move him or her back to her original enclosure. But we stumbled into this conversation because of this picture, because of this question, and they were perfectly fine and they understood where we were coming from. We didn't believe that it was a new gene or trait. We explained to them what we, think it may be from having years of breeding under the belt. Also, we, had few crests. It wasn't very many, about 2 or 3, maybe 4 crests on one side of the crown of her head that were missing. And they asked, well, when she sheds, will they grow back? That's the other part about crested geckos. So if your crested geckos are breeding, typically if they miss out, if they're missing crests because they've been bit off by their mate, typically they're not going to grow back. They're just not. Same thing, obviously, when they throw their tails don't grow back, like some of the other lizard species. That being said, that does not, in a sense, devalue your gecko. These things may happen, and they don't happen often. I can count on one hand how many geckos we have that have even scarring, on the crown of their head. And we've had, over the years, not currently, thousands of geckos.
Hey guys, Flawless Crested Geckos here, Will, Audra, and we're here to tell you about our Patreon.
Yes, going through tough times, you got to know that Flawless is always going to have your back. If you go over to patreon.com/Flawless Crested Geckos, you'll see all the perks and benefits it is there for you to come and support us on our Patreon. $50 a month turns around and goes right back into your Flawless Crested Geckos savings account for you to use towards your next purchase.
Any purchase. We also give awesome benefits such as 5% off the top of the price of the gecko. We give free merchandise, t-shirts, we give stainless steel tables, tools, yes. All kinds of goodies. We also give free shipping to our members all year round, no blackout dates. And, we give awesome tips, or we think we do anyway.
That's right. So go over to patreon.com/Flawless Crested Geckos.
And join our family.
And we typically don't keep the same exact breeders year in, year out. We have certain ones that are a part of certain programs. And also, we've explained before, we have breeders that don't breed every single year. But that being said, you're going to run into thrown tails. You're going to run into head scarring. You're going to run into some missing crests. But the missing crest is few and far between. Don't think that you need to sideline your crested gecko because they're 100% healthy and they're missing 2 or 3 crests on one side or other side, whatever it may be. Don't think that that's necessarily a reason to sideline your crested gecko. You always want to sideline your crested gecko if you feel that it's in the best interest of their health and their well-being. Sometimes you may have overly aggressive male or female that you feel that they just really, really go overboard with their mates and they really rough them up. Those, which is where I was going, the direction I was going in the beginning. When we first started breeding, we did a lot of things wrong, and we've put it out there. And again, it's always our opinion. We're never trying to set pretty much the rules for the industry. We just tell you our experience. And in our experience, we've never truly had success pairing, say for instance, taking a male out of his enclosure, taking a female out of her enclosure, and putting them into a sanitary enclosure with nothing in it, putting them in a 6-quart or a 20-quart with nothing in it, in a clear tub, putting them in the dark, and checking on them periodically, seeing if they're locked. Yes, we've had several locks that way in the earlier stages of our breeding voyage, but we've had the majority of our thrown tails have been in those scenarios. We literally experienced that because we were so, how do I put it? We were so focused on lineage and not grouping our crested geckos because we wanted to know exactly who was the mom. We will always know who the father is in a group, but we wanted to know exactly who was the mom laying what eggs and when. Therefore, we still to this day don't do any groups. It will be much, much easier and especially alleviate a lot of time issues we have scheduling as well as employees and things like that if we did do groups. But for us right now, we're still very, very focused on keeping our lineage very precise and exact. And it helps us, especially when we have another announcement coming up really, really soon on a different logistics about the way we do things. But I say all that because, that way of breeding and pairing we found we are not successful at. We have never been successful at it that way. And like we previously stated, if you can see an obstacle or a problem, you want to circumvent that, which is why we breed the way we breed now. Now we pretty much take our male, we move our male into our females enclosures. They still have coverage, they have places to hide, they have food, they have water, they have everything in there as a regular enclosure. We don't observe them breeding. We'll check on them here and there, but we're not hyper focused on if they're locked, if they locked together. Before we used to see them in a clear tub, we'll say, yes, they're locked up. And then you lift the tub up and you'll see that he's not locked. He thought he was in and he missed. And man, we just went through so many headaches trying to be hyper vigilant and I guess you can even say micromanaging in a sense. And now all of that has been alleviated. We never go through those issues. I can literally, out of 300, 400 breedings, whatever, locks, we may hear a breeding or a lock going down, but we never see it. We never see it because we don't focus on that portion of it. We also make sure we check on them several times a week to make sure that, number one, there's no prolapsed hemipenes, there's no scarring on the heads, open wounds, just looking like they've just blatantly been in a fight. We observe all of our crested geckos to make sure that, that's above and beyond actually the production of eggs is their health. We've put our story out there on how our male in the earlier stages, Gotti, had prolapsed hemipene. And we thought he was going to have to be amputated. And luckily enough, working with one of our vets that we have on call, she was able to get it to go back in. She gave him a little stitch to hold it in. And she said, oh yeah, give him a few weeks and he'll be back to normal. We took that information and we said, whew, okay, cool. That's definitely saving grace for us. And we put him on the shelf for the rest of the year. We didn't breed him at all for the rest of the year. The following year, he went back into the breeding program and knock on wood, we haven't had a problem with him since. But again, we could have probably put him back into breeding that same year, if we were really going to chase the monetary value at that time. But we didn't because we felt it was in his best interest and in his best health to make sure that he doesn't prolapse again. So I put all this stuff out there to make sure that, number one, you can find this content, you can watch this content, subscribe, enjoy this content, comment down below if you have similar issues like this, or comment down below if you disagree. Also, we want to put it out there that, this isn't, a bully platform. Speak your mind. You're not going to be attacked. We love criticism, especially constructive criticism. We want to constantly improve. We want to bring everyone together in the hobby. There's enough room here for everyone to succeed. There's so many different directions you can work. And we can do it all with a smile on our face. And like I said before, if you don't want your name put out there and you still need help, and maybe you don't want to go to the source of where you got your gecko from and you need some assistance, we will gladly help you, and we can help you without throwing you under the bus and kind of plastering you all over the internet and get you set up and to succeed. But anyway, it's Will, Flawless Crested Geckos. We love you guys, and we out.